Welcome back to another episode of the Owl Talk podcast. This is Joe Palazzolo, and the focus of today's podcast is alumni volunteering. We've got an incredible guest for this episode, but before we get to him, I just want to set the stage a little bit. My hope is that Sigma Pi brothers from coast to coast really love their undergraduate experience, which for most brothers is 3 or 4 or maybe 5 years long. But we spend the longest amount of time in Sigma Pi as alumni. And for those of us who still have the fire to be involved in the life of the fraternity after we graduate, volunteering is the way to go. Today, I'm honored to be joined by Brad Poronsky, who is a JAG with the United States Air Force. And I can't wait to talk about that career. It sounds fascinating. But Brad is also the chapter advisor for our Iota-Delta Chapter at UT San Antonio. Also, Brad recently won Sigma Pi Fraternity's Lyle H. Smith Most Outstanding Chapter Advisor Award at Convocation in Indianapolis. So I'm interested in talking to him about his experience as an alumni volunteer, too. And I know we have a whole lot of other topics to touch on during this conversation, including maybe an athletic accomplishment that Brad achieved back in 2005. And with that, I'd like to welcome Brad to the Owl Talk podcast. Welcome, Brad.
Hey, Joe. Thanks for having me. Happy to be here.
Welcome. Maybe just to set the stage for our listeners, can you tell us a little bit about yourself? Where are you from? Where did you grow up? What did you study in college? And then what brought you to Sigma Pi?
Yeah, so I grew up mostly in Texas. Dad was military, so it wasn't the traditional move every 2 years lifestyle. We were able to homestead just a little bit. He kind of worked a circuit around some bases around San Antonio's and had quite the commute. Did a lot of TDYs, a lot overseas. Uh, so a lot of time in San Antonio. He flew for the Air Force, spent time in Oklahoma and Canada, and it was a really good way to grow up. Met a lot of people. Um, Kind of got to reinvent yourself every few years, which was fun. Uh, really had a focus on family. Got great parents. Uh, so I went to a couple schools. Ended up at the University of Texas in Austin. Uh, so the flagship school for UT, and had a really great time there. Got involved in a few things, and that's what led me to Sigma Pi fraternity eventually. So while there, I did football. I actually did Army ROTC for 2 or 3 years while in undergrad. Um, there's a story that goes along with that, but I'll save it. And then didn't quite want to quit school. Wanted to collect some more degrees. Went to law school. Figured it'd be a good flexible way to help people. World always needs lawyers. It could be one of the flexible, kind of like an MBA. You can do different things with it. Ended up practicing law and been with the United States Air Force JAG Corps now for about 15 years.
It's incredible. It's incredible. Brad, I am so not ready for the real world that I went and became a professor so I could stay in school forever. You know, I do want to hear the story about an Air Force guy, and now, of course, I know the Air Force connection because of your family. But how did an Air Force guy wind up in the Army ROTC?
I think it was, I like to think I'm normal. My wife tells me otherwise sometimes, but I think it's a normal, high school, college age male thing to do. You want to go fast, you want to make things explode, you want to kick indoors and jump out of airplanes, and that's a great thing to do. I wanted to do that all the way through law school. So I wanted to join the military. I figured the army was the best way to do that at that time. I think my body could, I was practicing every day. We were doing football. I was dedicating, time to film, time to hitting the weight room, time to conditioning on the field. And I was like, it was something I really liked. I still really like it. And I thought I wanted to make that part of my job. And the army seemed like the way to go. I really thought, man, I could throw a ruck on my back, throw 30 pounds in there and go forever. I didn't think about Brad sitting in this chair today, looking at you and how my back and my knees would feel after doing that for 15 years. So, went to law school, still figured I could jump out of planes and kick indoors and do who a fun guy stuff. And was getting through law school, started applying to the military, and I was like, hey, this is what I want to do. And they're like, yeah, you got a law degree. We got a better idea. So I'm a lawyer, and it's been great. Still gotten to do a lot of fun things outside. Leave a lot of the stuff to the younger guys and girls. But I've really enjoyed being a lawyer, and I'm happy that's the direction my life took.
Hey, just for our listeners who may not be familiar with what the day to day life is like, what the day to day work is like, being a JAG, can you maybe just take us inside? Just what is that like? What is that profession like?
So you're all of our JAGs in all the military, all the DoD branches, 3-year law schools. Some of us have advanced LLM type degrees. The really unique thing about the JAG Corps is a lot of responsibility real quick. So there's different paths you can take, but in the Air Force, everyone's going to start out as a prosecutor, and you'll start catching cases to prosecute. And it's not like the typical DA where you're going to start off on a low misdemeanor type docket, working just possessions or traffic or whatever you do to cut your teeth. They'll throw you in the deep end pretty quick, and depending on what's going on around your base, you could catch some real serious felony type cases to prosecute. And those are your cases. They'll throw a more senior counsel on it with you typically. Um, but yeah, all the things that happen in society that we wish didn't, those are your cases pretty much right away. And then there's an opportunity there. So you'll start out doing that prosecution gig on a base, and our bases function a lot like towns. On each base, you typically are going to have a grocery store. You're going to have a little shopette, which is maybe like a 7-Eleven, next to a gas station. You got your fire department, a school, parks, a gym. It's just anything a town's going to have. You've got kind of self-sustained on this base, and then you typically have an installation or a wing commander who's in charge of making it all run. So they're kind of like the mayor of the base, plus they're responsible for the entire military mission. So it's almost like a general counsel job when you come in too. So you're wearing a prosecutor hat part of the time, and then the other part of the time you could be picking up like civil legal assistance stuff. You could be picking up fiscal law, labor law, contract law, and then from there, I mean, a lot of opportunities to kind of go and specialize or keep being a generalist. So it's been really amazing. I've been able to focus a lot of my career doing litigation and some operational law type stuff, which presents some phenomenal opportunities.
That's incredible. I'm not going to ask you to tell any wild stories from that career because I know you can't. But what I do know is that we've got a whole lot of undergraduates and young alumni who are in different branches of the military. And I know someone's going to hear this, Brad, and they might be inspired to get into that line of work because of your experiences. So thank you for sharing that with us. Today, our topic is about alumni volunteering. So in addition to your work, in addition to being a JAG, how did you get involved being an alumni volunteer for Sigma Pi fraternity?
So it was something after undergrad. I felt like I had it together, but I also felt like my head was spinning a little bit. You're out in the real world. My wife showed me something the other day on, I don't do the social networks, but one of those social networks. And it was this little, it was like a one-page vignette. And it was like, one of the hardest things in life that no one prepared me for was that I was going to have to find something to eat 3 times every day for the rest of my life. And, and just like that little bit of like, and of course we're all responsible for that and we all do it, but as a joke, I was trying to get my feet under me, and the Air Force helped me with that. I had a career, I was getting the training, but they moved me away from home. They moved me away from Austin. They moved me away from Texas and San Antonio, and tried to stay in touch with a lot of my chapter, Gamma Theta, at the University of Texas in Austin. And it was just a little bit difficult. I went from Washington, D.C. to Kansas to where else was I? Germany, California, Alabama, a couple other places in between. But like life happens, I lost touch a little bit. And I always tried to have some touch points. John Frost. I met John Frost while I was at the University of Texas as an undergrad, and he was coming around squaring us away. Not much older than I was, helping us along. So I kept in touch with him. And when I got back here to San Antonio just 3, 4 years ago, gosh, yeah, about 4 years ago now, it presented an opportunity. So I came back from a year-long deployment, reached out to the chapter that was established at University of Texas San Antonio, Iota-Delta, and that was my opportunity to start really pushing it. So now I've been back involved with them, those guys, helping them do everything a chapter advisor does, and it's also brought me back into the fold of kind of the national organization, the biennial convocations, and it was a really great opportunity to see John, to see you, to see all the folks that I never even necessarily met in person, but I knew were involved in helping uh, push Sigma Pi fraternity forward on the national level. Um, and that just ingrained me deeper, gave me other opportunities to get involved. And again, it's all for the benefit of our undergraduate chapters. I get a lot out of it as well at this stage in my life, but the focus really is helping these young men along, helping them develop, helping them in all the things we believe in, the academics, the charity, the social aspect, um, and just turning them into good young men.
Yeah, trying to build the future through one young man at a time, right? Um, so remind me, when you were an undergraduate, I know you attended some national events. I think you were at a mid-year leadership conference or two. Is that correct?
Yeah, I went to I don't remember exactly what year it was, but John John Frost always shows me this photograph that y'all took of me there. And I guess I dressed like that at some point, but it's like a black felt, I think a beaver felt cowboy hat and like a huge rancher jacket and a nice pressed button-up shirt. It was maybe that was the style way back when. I don't think that's true, but that's what I'll tell my kids one day when they find that photo on the internet. Um, so yeah, that was amazing. And the fraternity really does have a lot. The fraternity really does have a lot beyond the undergraduate level to bring folks together and present other opportunities to get involved in the community and to do good things beyond yourself and your small little neighborhood.
Yeah, I remember that mid-year leadership conference. I was just a couple of years into being a chapter advisor myself back then. I remember standing in the back of the room and saying, "Who is that?" Because everyone was sitting there, and then there was a mountain of a guy with that cowboy hat on, and I was like, "Good Lord!" What? And I remember Frost saying to me, "Oh, he plays football at University of Texas." I said, "Oh, damn! All right, okay." And we'll get back. We'll get back and we'll talk about that. But let's talk a little bit more about being chapter advisor. So what you're here, you're working with the guys at Iota Delta, UT San Antonio. What stands out to you about the work of a chapter advisor? And let's assume that our listeners may not know what a chapter advisor does. So what stands out to you about that work as being important?
Yeah, it number one, it's really flexed me as a leader, because we wear all sorts of different hats. We're one type of man, one type of leader with our family, with deference, of course. But there's a leadership aspect to raising kids and being part of a family unit day to day, um, and that goes for your kids and your wife too. I mean, we're all leaders in a different way, and then there's a leadership aspect to my job. I'm a certain type of leader, and I wear a certain type of hat. And day to day in my professional job as an officer, as a military officer. And that hat doesn't change who you are or what you represent or how you present yourself, but people are going to respond differently to you if they know you from your childhood, if they're married to you, if they work with you or for you in a subordinate capacity. And so coming over as a chapter advisor to Iota Delta, it was a different type of leadership where even now I have to remind myself these young men are here to get an education. That's their priority. This isn't their full-time job. Everyone's there for a different reason. Some of them are doing it as a gateway to charitable things with a group to make an impact. Some of them are there to just be part of the social network, and beyond just the parties or the meetings, they enjoy each other's company. I mean, we're social creatures as humans, so understanding, I may go into the job as JAG every day and I'm getting paid to be there. I love being there, but I'm getting paid to be there and I got a mission to do. These guys are here at the university and part of this organization because they want to. And they're going to give everything they have. They're going to give that extra time. They're going to put it in to grow themselves and to grow the folks around them. But it's not their primary mission and their primary job for being at university right now. Um, so whereas in my job, day to day in the Air Force, I'm a checklist guy. That's how I stay organized. I'm a to-do list guy. Like I put it on a piece of paper and then it's out of my head. And I'm just task oriented, getting through all of it every day. So these guys are doing that, but they've got this big university educational list too. And then they've got, okay, where am I going professionally? What's happening in 4 years? What's going to happen in 2 years, 1 year? Okay, I'm starting a job now. Um, so when I'm looking at their finances, when I'm looking at their risk management, when I'm looking at how are we going out to select other quality students to be a part of this organization that have the same values and mentality as you do, that are going to do the right thing and going to help their community. um, they're all there, they're all for it, but they just have so much more focus day to day. They have so many more things to worry about than just a job. So the go-dos might take a little bit longer. And it may not be just a direct go-do. It's not an order of, hey, I need this from you and I need it by this deadline. It's a softer approach. It's creating a lot of agency. And I approach it, it's my chapter, but it's not my chapter. This is their chapter, and I want them to build it. And ultimately, I want them to make the decisions on what they're doing and why. I'll I'll be heard. I'll make sure they're hearing me on what I think they should do, but when they want to go a different direction, I'll let them go a different direction because that's part of growing up. That's part of them becoming leaders. That's part of them learning how they want to make decisions.
This is all such great advice, and I know we've got other chapter advisors who are out there who are going to listen to the podcast, and they'll learn from this conversation. Brad, you make so many great points. By the way, I'm also a checklist kind of guy, so I'm sure we're the same. Like I have checklists of other checklists that need to get to.
Yes,
It's
yes.
crazy. But you mentioned with undergrads, it's just a different interaction. What I always find interesting when I work with my undergrads, not just here at my home chapter at Delta Beta, but around the country, is the priorities. The priorities that I think they should have totally different from the priorities that they actually have. But what I really like about what you said is, you're not going to do the work for them because it's not your chapter; it's really their chapter. This is their undergraduate leadership experience, and your work augmenting their leadership experience actually got you an award this past summer, the number one chapter advisor award in all of Sigma Pi fraternity. Congratulations, of course. Maybe you can talk to our listeners a little bit about what that award was like, what did it feel like, and then maybe some higher level lessons that they can take back with them from our number one chapter advisor.
Flattery will get you everywhere, Joe.
That's what I hope.
It, no, I was really honored. That was really unexpected. So to set the scene, y'all's team does an amazing job every year or every 2 years at these biennial conferences. Just a real class act, top notch conference. I mean, when you think conference, that's what that is. I mean, it's on par with any professional conference I've been to, in the finish out, in the substance. So we're sitting in big banquet room, very nice hotel, and we've come to the part of the program where they're reading out awards, and I'm invested at this point. I mean, I'm invested in the national organization. I'm invested in Iota Delta, and it's real interesting for me. And I feel very proud as they're reading out all the names of the award winners for the past 2 years. Uh, and every time they called someone's name, I was like, "Oh yeah, that makes sense. That guy's awesome. Like he's done phenomenal work. I see him everywhere. He's involved in everything. I don't know how he has all the time." And so this award came up, and y'all were fixing to announce it, and I didn't expect it at all. Like, I talked to folks up at nationals. I talked to you. I talked to John. Talked to Chris, but I didn't expect it. So I was waiting to hear, all right, who's gonna get this? And I don't remember who was announcing. Was it Varney? No, because I took a picture with Varney
I
and
think it
Kent.
was John Frost who was announcing, and Kent was over on the side for pitchers.
That's right. I'll tell you the picture story in a sec. Yeah, so sitting at a really great table and with some of the guys from my chapter, we brought 4 or 5 guys, so they were at my table, and Brad Poronsky, and I was like, no way, that's awesome. One of the one of the things in the military that I think sometimes you maybe wish it would be a different way, but it's not a different way. Is we have a lot of awards. I mean, people are like people are something that our military does very well. We invest in our people, in their training, uh, people as a weapon system. But for awards and decorations and things, whether it's a monthly award, quarterly, a decoration for something, the expectation typically is you're going to write that up yourself. If I want an award or it's time for a PCS and a decoration or something, like, all right, Brad, take first hack at that. And I'll put that in, and my boss will typically, this has been my experience for 15 years, my boss will polish it up, and public school guy, he'll make all my words make sense. He'll take the word soup and make sure there's a verb and a noun, maybe an adjective to make it sound like I did something really good. So sitting at this table at convocation, I didn't put in a package for me. No one talked to me about anything. But yeah, I was really honored to hear my name, and it felt really great. And I think it's a testament, not necessarily to me. I mean, I go do my thing, a couple times a week with these guys, but they're putting in the work, they're putting in the time, they're advancing their chapter at Iota Delta. So that was, yeah, it was amazing.
And
But
then
not
and then you walk up there, and there's the good judge. And what happened next?
Yeah, so past Grand Sage, Kent Varney, a judge in his day-to-day life when he's not given time to this organization, who stands all of about, what do you think, 3.5 feet tall?
I would say that's about right. Yeah.
Yeah. But well, and for anyone listening, I am freakishly tall on the other end of the spectrum. So I'm sure, I get 10 feet every now and then, but Kent's an awesome guy. And I think at that point, he was a past Grand Sage, and he's near the backdrop of, "Hey, award winners, come up, shake hands with everyone." Uh, Take, shake, smiles, what we call it in the military. You take your award, your decoration, you shake hands, and you salute. So I go over to Kent to take this picture. Out of nowhere, so who was it? Somebody handed him a chair just from one of the banquet tables, and he hops up on the chair to take a picture with me. And the photographer took it, and so there's like a really nice felt backdrop, and the photographer took the picture with Kent standing on the chair. We're just both cracking up. His face is just red like a tomato. He's loving this. Uh, it was just a really neat time, and it was a testament to the organization and the chapter that I'm with day to day.
And he got to be almost as tall as you were when he was standing up on the chair. It was almost.
He did, yeah. So I cropped that photo actually, and I sent it to a couple guys. I sent it out to Larry Rivera. I sent it out to I think I sent it to John. I sent it to Varney. But I cropped that photo in a way where it was just it was above both of our knees, so we looked the exact same height. And someone finally was onto it and was like, "What's going on? Did you Photoshop that?" And so I sent him the zoomed out photo where you could see he's literally standing on a chair and he's almost as tall as me.
Oh, it's great. It's great. Well, congratulations again for the award. Well deserved, of course. I'm gonna hop back into your history for a moment. When we think about our college lives, undergraduate lives, and some exciting experiences that you may have as an undergraduate, I remember when I was an undergraduate, maybe our big exciting experience was every spring, almost every spring, we would win our on-campus Greek Week event. That was our big championship that we would win. If I'm not mistaken, I think you had a much more significant athletic accomplishment than our little Greek Week wins back in 2005. Maybe you can take us a little bit behind the scenes on that national championship run.
Yeah, so absolutely. Uh, so I played football at the University of Texas. Amazing experience, amazing athletes. I had a lot, not a lot. I had a few opportunities to go play at other schools and scholarships and that type of thing. But then there's the University of Texas, this big powerhouse program, amazing educational institution, wonderful city, but really great athletic programs as well historically. And uh, and so I walked on there. Played ball and just really great experience. So I did that for 3 or 4 years. My last year of school, like you said, some of us go to school for 3, 4, 5, 6 years. They call them doctors. So I think I was taking my one more football season, so 4.5 years, and yeah, and we went undefeated that year, and just a lot of really great athletes, or really great guys. Went out to the Rose Bowl in I think that was January of 2006, and uh, yeah, the rest is history. So it was really great just to be a part of that and be around that culture. It helped shape me into who I am. Just a lot of really neat, and the coaches too. I mean, thinking back almost immediately, but I still think back. Hey, how did they lead? How did they manage all of these guys to row in the same direction? You have people from every walk of life, but the one thing they have in common is athletics and football. And how do you get them all to work towards a common goal? So I think about that often too, the types of things they would do to bring us all together to make sure we had the personal accountability, but we were also holding each other accountable as peers.
Sure.
So
I'm curious. A few episodes ago, I interviewed one of our young alumni from Beta Gamma chapter at Eastern Illinois University. When he was an undergraduate, just graduated last year. When he was an undergraduate, he was on the tennis team. He was also a member of Sigma Pi. He was the president of his chapter. I'm just curious. Being such a high level football player on such an impressive team, how did you manage both? How did you manage all of the time commitment and really the mental and physical commitment to being on that football team, and also being in the fraternity?
yeah, I heard that episode. He was from Australia, right? Did he grow
Yeah,
up in Australia?
yeah,
Yeah, really, really neat story. So I it was a lot. And like I think now with the perspective I have, I can look back and I can say that was a lot, but it was normal at the time. And I heard the people around me, I heard, folks like you, I heard professors say, "Oh, it's a lot. Student athletes have a lot." The media says it, your coaches say it. You've got a lot on your plate. And you do. Thinking back, it's you got to get your workout in before 2 p.m. So that's 3 hours of your day. You go in, your gear's ready, you put your gear on in the locker room, the workouts in the gym for you, and you get a lift in. And then you go shower, you change, you start your classes. Then about you do whatever classes you need to for the day, a little bit of studying. 2 o'clock, you're back in there, changed again, and you're in the film room and you're watching film. And then you have your position or your team meetings, and then you're out on the field again for 2.5 hours, transit time, showers. You're exhausted at that point. And then the thing no one told you in life, you got to get dinner. So you go take some more time to eat so you can live. Um, it was a busy schedule, but it got done. And I think now where I am in my life, I think I value the people who can do that. And everyone has different opportunities. So I mean, that's not the only thing you can do, but the folks who have the opportunities and take advantage of it and can do the undergraduate student athlete thing while making good grades and while being people of substance, it shows a lot about what they're capable of and where they're going in their life. So I mean, those are the people that I can see that businesses want to hire, that banks want to give small business loans to, that you know the Air Force, the military could really uh, would really value too. So it was a busy schedule. We fit a lot into a day. One of my talking points now, typically, I'll give it sometimes. We have like a lot of corporations and institutions, we do initial feedback, midterm feedback, closeout feedback for our folks. And it'll come up every now and then, but more so folks will ask like, "Hey, how are we going to do this? I feel so overwhelmed. I got a lot on my plate." And I say it tongue in cheek, but hey, bite off more than you can chew and then chew like hell. 90% of the time, you're going to be able to chew it all. You're going to be able to swallow it. You're going to be fine. You're going to look back and go, wow, I can't believe I had time to do all that. But it was a lot, but it made me who I am.
Good advice. Good advice. Well, let's maybe we begin to tie all this together. So, what did you learn from the national championship run? What do you learn now from your life as a Jag? What do you learn from all of this that is immediately applicable for you as a chapter advisor?
Giving back in communities, I think, have become more important year to year on me. And it sounds kind of cliche to say that because there is a selfish component of it too. When you do good things for people, it kind of makes you feel good. But when you're doing it for the right reasons, when you're doing it to grow a local geographic community or a church community or an undergraduate organization like this or any undergraduate organization, I work with my son's football team. We're there 3 times a week for 2 hours a day or whatever. But that sort of service, it grows communities, it grows people, it pays dividends to our society and our country in the short run and in the long run. Because everything you invest, even if you lose, and I do lose contact with a lot of the people, we lose contact with a lot of the people we interact with day to day. But I think back on all the people that took time with me to help guide me, to help shape me, to help teach me skills and resiliency and all these things that are so important in life. And that's what pushes us forward. So that's what's important to me is that these young men go out and do something for their families, for their country, for their church, for whatever's important to them, and it'll push everyone forward, and we'll all rise together.
I could not agree more. I could not agree more. Thank you for that, and thank you for a great conversation here. Before we wrap up, do you have any last parting words for our listeners today?
Owl Talk, if you've lost touch with your chapter, if you've lost touch with, the national organization, if you've got time to give, this is a very worthy pursuit with the potential to touch a lot of lives in a very positive way. Um, Time, talent, treasure, whichever of those three you have to give. Um, it's become very meaningful to me. And it's become something that I make time for multiple times a week now. And I know in the long run it's going to create a positive impact. And it's just really great to see these guys, do their school, graduate, go off and launch into careers.
Thank you, Brad. Thank you so much for being a guest today on the Owl Talk podcast. And thank you to everyone who listened to today's episode about alumni volunteering. For the latest on what's going on in the world of Sigma Pi fraternity, you can follow us across social media. You can search for Sigma Pi, all one word, on Instagram, X, and Facebook. You can find us over there. On YouTube, you can search for Sigma Pi fraternity, all one word. You can find us on YouTube. Thanks again for listening to this episode, and we look forward to you joining us again for the next Owl Talk podcast.